Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Julie Zuckerman, author of the Book of Jeremiah, and welcome to the November Literary Modiin author event. And happy Jewish Book Month to everyone. For those of you who are new here, this is a monthly author series that's been going on for 6.5 years, and this is our 66th event. And for those of you who are with us at the October event, that was a special solidarity event to commemorate 2 years since October 7th. It was, I think, on October 5th. And I know you all join me in feeling like we can breathe a lot easier today than we were breathing a month and a half ago. Now that our hostages, the last 20 living hostages, have returned, and many of those who were killed in captivity have been returned for proper burial, though we are still waiting three more. And I'll say a few more words about that at the end. But for now, I want to turn to our main event, which is something very joyful, and that is the release of new Jewish books into the world. The format of today's event is that each author will be speaking for 15 minutes or so, and then we open it up to questions. And we have a large attendance today, so everyone's on mute. But if you have any questions, you should put your questions or comments to the authors in the chat box. And if you have any technical difficulties, just send a private note to me in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our first author. Nina Bow, you have to tell me if I'm pronouncing it right. Lichtenstein is a native of Oslo, Norway, who lives in Maine and occasionally in Israel. She holds a PhD in French literature from UConn and an MFA in creative writing from the University of Southern Maine's Stone Coast program. She has blogged as the Viking Jewess since 2014, and her writing has appeared in Tablet Magazine, Beller, Brevity Blog, Lilith, Washington Post, HuffPost, and AARP, among other places. Her work has been anthologized, and her book, Sephardic Women's Voices Out of North Africa, was published in 2017. Her memoir, In Essays, Body, My Life in Parts, was published by Vine Leaves Press in 2025, and she's currently working on a memoir about her Viking Jewess adventure, as well as a historical novel inspired from true events set in Norway before, during, and after the Second World War. Nina is also the founder and director of the Maine Writers Studio and the co-founder and co-editor of In a Flash literary magazine, which has all sorts of nice prompts, and I encourage you all to check those out. So let me spotlight Nina, and you can take it away.
Hi everybody, and I'm delighted to be on this side of the literary Modiin for the first time. Been follower for a long time, and I really have to say I appreciate the work you do for Jewish books and Jewish authors, Julie. So hats off to you. I'm excited to hear the other participants here today and the stories of their books. I'll start with the basics and essentially my book, Body, My Life in Parts, is a memoir and essays where each chapter is named for a body part. And these chapters are interdependent. You can pick up the book and read a chapter in skin or eyes or hips, and you don't have to go chronological, although together they do form, if not a narrative arc, a story of you could say parts of a life, which happens to be mine. Now, the beauty of the concept of writing from our body is that, body is pretty much probably one of the most democratic things you can think about. Everybody has a body. So even though the specific stories in the book relate to my life and my body, I think that what I hope is that when people read the book, they also get sort of a reminder of how their own bodies carry stories that might not otherwise be accessible, and that you may not think about unless you start to actually think about it. So I call myself a recovering academic. That is, I started out with a PhD in French literature, and I worked and taught for several years in that field. But when I was going through my divorce, I started to write more personal essays and blog, probably as part of like the whole concept of metabolizing life and our experiences through writing. And I found it quite gratifying. In fact, I like to say that that's when I found my real voice, my real sort of writer's voice, which felt a lot more authentic to who I am, and what I enjoy saying, rather than the sort of academies, that academic papers and presentations and books encourage. Because English is my second language, and also at the same time, around my divorce, I moved to Maine from Connecticut. I felt compelled, as I pivoted from academia into creative writing, to enter into a Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing program, partly for to sort of bolster my English language and narrative tools and all that good stuff in English, and also as a part of creating community, because I was moving from where I had raised my kids in a very sort of lovely, warm Jewish community in Connecticut. And I was moving to Maine, where there's like two Jews. I'm exaggerating a little, but and so this was part of me sort of fostering community in creative writing. And I didn't enter my MFA program with a particular project in mind. Many people come with, a project that they've started or something they're excited about to do in a structured environment. I just wanted to write and learn and take it all in. Um, um, but we had our first deadline as it was a 2-year program, and not really having any clear idea of where I wanted to go. Um, I woke up in the middle of the night about a week or two before the first deadline, the first big packet was due of writing, and I had a terrible pain in my hip. And that awakened a curiosity and also sort of a deep dive into the internet about like what could this be. And I'm going to just start to read a very short excerpt from my prologue, just to sort of set the stage a little bit. That night, when my hip was killing me, I fumbled for the pen I tried to leave on my night table exactly for moments like these, when an idea enters my mind but can vanish just as quickly. Jotting it down, I can recall I can recall the thought in the morning when I'm alert and ready to explore our compatibility. Thus, this project was born. My body, which promised to guide me on this journey, became a portal for the remembering and recording of scars and blessings, traumas and joys, shame and pride, even the smallest moments long forgotten, all experiences lodged deep within the body parts, unique shapes, tissue, fascia, and nerve endings. Became the body because the body is at once witness and accomplice, reliably present when sometimes, perhaps often, the mind is not. And I speak to this as a person who has come to understand and be diagnosed with ADHD in my 50s. So this was an important anchoring experience for me in the writing. Each body part is a treasure chest, waiting to have its lock picked and content discovered and examined, touched again, felt again, and maybe even understood from the point of view of the person I've become. What happened in and to the body of this woman, daughter, mother, wife, lover, friend, teacher, writer? And how do all these bodily life moments become the building blocks of me? So I handed in that first packet, which was all about my hips. It had an ode to my hips. It had some talking about the wide hips. It had some talk about childbirth, etc. And my mentor, God bless her, reacted in one enthusiastic way, which was give me more of this. And 2 years later, with lots of packets due and lots of body parts in the mix, I had my shitty first draft, as we like to call it. And essentially, in this book, the body and the chapters named for different body parts. So the body parts act as sort of the characters. That is, it can be the physical partner in the story. For example, when I tell the story of how I punched a man in what I call an epic knockout, which is in the hands chapter, or when I was going through my divorce as another example where the body part is really the not kind of like the character of the chapter, I kept having dreams about losing my teeth. And so that took me onto a whole exploration of the meaning of teeth and my own teeth. And then I also sometimes use the body part as a metaphor. So, for example, little Nina, the little girl that I was growing up in Oslo, Norway, was very curious and getting into a lot of trouble being called nosy, sticking her nose where it doesn't belong, etc. And so in the nose chapter, that is part of how I can play with the concept of nose and the memories and stories that it brings up. And finally, another example, as the where the body part is becomes a metaphor, is in the skin chapter, where one of my stories really isn't so much about my fair Scandinavian skin, which has lots of precancerous moles that I have checked every year and things like that. But I use it as more as a metaphor of having skin in the game in life, and the way we can be stretched so thin sometimes, both emotionally and physically, and how that can impact us. So on that note, I'm going to read a little excerpt, or actually, this is sort of the excerpt that is my main reading, which is from the chapter of skin, and it's about my oldest son's bris here in the United States. When it came to creating my Jewish family and my newly minted Jewish identity, I have had literal skin in the game. Not only was my Viking DNA a welcome addition to the Eastern European Ashkenazi gene pool of my husband Dan's family, and our children anxiously awaited and welcomed, but emotionally, the commitment to this new Jewish life I had chosen was a deeply physical and material commitment. You can believe with all your heart and even understand that circumcising your son is an important part of Jewish identity and continuity, but handing over your 8-day-old newborn to be cut into with a scalpel in the presence of your community and your incredulous non-Jewish mother, hailing from a culture that does not circumcise, is a whole different commitment. Not only did I have metaphorical skin in the game, but I put my newborn son actual skin in it too. Tobias is 8 days old, and his circumcision, or Brit Milah, the covenant of circumcision, welcomes him into our Jewish community and the entire Jewish tribe. The ceremony and celebration are held in the synagogue where Dan and I belong. Friends, family, and all our extended family fill the sanctuary. There are close to 100 guests. My mother arrived from Norway 8 days ago on the day I gave birth. She and I stand in the women's section, 2 rows away from the stage where Rabbi Alter performs the circumcision. My father-in-law sits on a tall, curved wooden chair with regal red velvet upholstery, his firstborn grandson nestled on a pillow on his lap, a white silken prayer shawl draped over the patriarch's shoulders, and his yarmulke perched on his bold, shiny head. My husband stands tall next to his dad, and he sways slowly from side to side, clutching the siddur to his chest. I can tell he is in a deep place, part anxious, part exhilarated. Our rabbi talks briefly to the gathering about how each baby is born with great potential, that we are about to honor the covenant between Abraham and God, which has defined the Jewish people for millennia. Despite the rabbi's beaming face and gentle voice, I worry that my mom must think it all sounds crazy, and I look over at her and meet her eyes with a smile, as if to soothe the strangeness she might feel. She does not smile back. When the rabbi turns and bends over Toby, the room falls silent. The baby is quiet as well, content and dozing because I've just fed him. But that quickly changes when his romper is unbuttoned and his diaper removed, and the rabbi deftly prepares and snips my son's foreskin. He yelps and begins to whimper, and my mother-in-law, who stands on my other side, takes my hand in hers and squeezes it. She smiles through tears of joy. A Jewish grandson! The baby's crying stops within seconds as the rabbi touches a gauze pad soaked in Manischewitz wine to my newborn's lips. My mother is ashen as the rabbi chants blessings in Hebrew among amens and mazel tovs from the crowd gathered to witness and celebrate the new member of the tribe. Then he loudly announces the name of the new little community member, Tuvia Yaakov Meir ben Chonemoshe. My son has a Hebrew name, which will be used in religious contexts, and an English one, which honors both his American and Norwegian heritage. Tobias Thor Lichtenstein. I look at Dan, who stands on the stage of the sanctuary, in front of the ark that holds the Torah scrolls, while our son's chosen godparent carries my baby toward me. But I am cold sweating because I can sense how incredibly foreign and difficult this event is for my mom, while at the same time I'm proud and feel an intense sense of belonging to my new Jewish community. Such mixed emotions. I'm dizzy, the moment surreal. My mother grips the back of the seat in front of her while fighting back tears, and I think I hear her say, "Barbarians." So, all these chapters have a lot of Jewish content, but not only, because my childhood in Norway was not at all Jewish. And so you have a mix of sort of a Norwegian zeitgeist, and certainly a Jewish one. And the result, I think, is a book that has a relatively unique approach to a collection of linked essays that in their in the result and the book that I hold and the work that I did, it helped me shape a picture of how I became who I am, and also, quite frankly, made me face the work that is of writing it, made me face my own sort of life chapters with accountability, and also deepen my ability for empathy. Um, I came to a realization in writing and publishing, and as I've been doing events and talking about my book, which is that while these stories are particular to me, um, body parts are such a universal thing. So even though I'm talking about a very specific experience, perhaps, um, I think that what I have here is, in essence, and this was not a plan, but I've come to realize it, I've, in essence, created sort of a craft book by example. I'm demonstrating how wealthy and what treasure chest really our body and our body parts can be in remembering, and what I like to call remembering, putting back together the stories of our lives. Um, in the back of my book, I offer writing prompts for each body part. And just to give you an example, uh, I would like to read the prompts for hands. Because what happened when I wrote the chapter about the epic knockout, when I punched a guy, it was not just because I was dealing with hands and I actually hadn't handed in during my MFA a story about punching this person. But my mentor, in her comments, she wrote, "Have you ever used your hands to protect yourself?" And so that's how that story came to be. And here are some hands prompts for people who'd like to think about exploring their own memories. How would you describe your hands physically? Give as many telling details as you can to help us see them. Have you used your hands to defend yourself or someone else? What have you built or created with your hands? Or what have you broken or torn down? Do your hands hurt you? Are your hands strong? And if so, write about the ways your hand strength has been useful or shifted over time. What are your favorite things to hold in your hands? Or perhaps to let go of? Do your hands have scars? And if so, what are they from? Tell the story of what happened. Have your hands stolen something? Returned something? Do you play an instrument with your hands? Explain how your hands work to make music. What's your favorite or memorable hand or hands to hold in yours? How so? So that's just an example of the writing prompts in the back of the book. Um, and finally, this is the wrap up. I have to also say that as a memoir writer, I've struggled with the sort of why should anyone care about my life, right? And how does this matter? I'm not writing a trauma memoir. I'm not writing a survival memoir, for example. So I don't have that kind of drama from the outset of the story. But I will say that when my father used to talk me down from my writing anxiety, he said, Nina, write to the audience of one. And I've found this very helpful. And when I was in Oslo having an event recently for my book, there were over 90 people at the event. It was overwhelming. It was wonderful sharing it with everybody in my home country, my birth country. And the last person to come up to have a book signed looked very flushed and a little emotional. And when I asked her who she was, I said, Hi, thanks for coming. And who can I sign the book to? And she says, I'm Gro, I'm your sister. So I'm in Oslo. And she came to my book event, and she's 2 years older than I am. And she always knew about me and my sister and my dad because my dad is also her dad, it turns out. And so my sort of concluding sentence or line to people who write memoir and also all sorts of writing, quite frankly, is to never underestimate who your story might become deeply meaningful for. Because as it turns out, as a friend said, Nina, you wrote this book for your half sister. Um, and if that is the one person, if that is my audience of one, I will say that the work was all worth it. Thanks.
That's great. Great. Okay, I was going to ask you about that to talk about that in the questions. Uh, but that was great. And I have to say, you do a beautiful job of weaving both your Norwegian past and your American and your, current like it works so well as a memoir. And also, like, you've had an extremely fascinating life, So, um,
Thank you, Julie.
yeah. Okay, so going to move on to our next author. Danila Botha is the author of the critically acclaimed short story collections Got No Secrets, For All the Men and Some of the Women I've Known, which was a finalist for the Trillium Book Award, the Vine Awards, and the Relit Award, and most recently, Things That Cause Inappropriate Happiness. Things That Cause Inappropriate Happiness won an Indie Reader Discovery Award for Women's Issues Fiction and was a finalist for the Canadian Book Club Awards, the Next Generation Indie Book Awards, and the National Indie Excellence Book Awards. She is also the author of the award-winning novel Too Much on the Too Much on the Inside, which was optioned for film by Pele Entertainment. Her new novel, A Place for People Like Us, was published in September 2025 by Guernica Editions. And she'll be talking about that right now. And her first graphic novel, Vidal, will be published in February 2026 by At Bay Press. And she's currently working on a new short story collection. So let me spotlight you and unmute you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here again. You have the best series. I love literary Modiin so much, and I love as you know, I love the Book of Jeremiah and I love your work so much, but I appreciate so much all that you do for the writing community and the Jewish writing community. Some of the people here can speak better to what it's like to be a Jewish writer since October 7th. Like some of the people here have had real lived experience that have been more extreme than most, but I'm a big fan of their work, so I'm happy that they're here. And I'm happy it's an honor to share the stage with writers whose work I love, with like Nina and Yishay and Yardenne, who's done such amazing translations, and other amazing translators who are here too, and other writers who are here too. Um, I've always been very, being a Jewish writer has always been an important part of my identity, but um, immediately before and post October 7th, I've definitely had experiences um, and that were overt in a way that I'd never experienced before. And I don't know how you guys feel, but um, it just made me want to double down on writing about Jewish things. Like I don't feel like I want to less. I feel like I want to more. I have a new collection of short stories that's coming out in 2027 with Guernica called Sleepwalking Too Close to the Fire, and there's a lot of stories about what it's been like for in the last couple of years. This book took forever to write. I am a lot more comfortable with short fiction than I am with novels. I started writing this when I did my MFA at Guelph in Canada. So that was after my first son Lev was born. That was in 2016. 2016. And I finished the first draft so sometime in 2018, and it's okay. It's only 2025 now, right? It's not so terrible. No, it took forever. Um, but I'm gonna read a scene from the middle of the book. Okay, so the book is about a character named Hannah who has a Jewish father but not a Jewish mother. She actually grew up in a cult in rural BC, a cult that in a very rural place in Canada that sort of borrowed from a lot of religions, and she becomes romantically and close friends with a girl called Jillian, who's actually an Israeli girl called Miriam, and changed her name in Canada because she wanted to feel more unique, and is a musician and is super, super charming. She finds out that this friend is lying about a lot of things and deceiving her about a lot of things. At the same time, she gets involved with a guy from her business class. A lot of people rebel by doing crazy, wild things. She rebelled against her upbringing by going to business school. And in getting involved with this guy, um, she eventually comes to a point where he says, like, you have to become Jewish, you have to convert to Judaism. Um, so it was super fascinating to me. I had a friend who went through the Orthodox conversion process. Um, I guess I live sort of in the modern Orthodox world myself, and that's the world I grew up in. So it's a world I knew really well. It's really interesting to me that a couple of people have read it as critiques of that world because it's not. To me, like I have tremendous love and respect for that world and for so many things about it. Um, but I was thinking a lot as my editor, Michael, and I worked on the edits for this book, I was thinking a lot about what it's like to navigate Jewish identity now and all the kinds of things that you would experience today. So I'm going to read a little bit from chapter 22, which is Hannah, our main character, comes on kind of like a birthright type of trip to Israel, but it's like for women that are like religious and balei tshuva and that kind of thing. They come to Jerusalem and have a religious experience. I'm not gonna read the whole chapter. I'm just gonna read a little bit. I stood squinting in the midday sun next to the hand washing station, next to the Kotel in Jerusalem. It was so hot I could see the air move in tiny waves in front of me. My plastic sandals were melting into the hot stones under my feet, and I could feel my mascara dripping into small pools under my eyes. I wondered for the millionth time how all the religious people around me could handle all the layers they had to wear. The flight was 13 hours long, and most of the other 15 women in my group were religious. There was one girl, Ella, who I clicked with immediately. She had brown hair that looked like it had been dusted with gold. It framed her face like a lion's. She was a chef living a completely secular life despite her upbringing. Her parents begged her to take this trip and paid for it so that she'd go. Jillian had given me some prescription sleeping pills, plus a pack of homeopathic pills called No Jet Lag. I split everything with Ella. When Chaya let us know that the schedule for the day we arrived, Ella rolled her dark brown eyes. I'm excited for all the pockets of free time, she said. Why? She looked away. My parents are in denial about my beliefs. I've been anti-Zionist for years. Anti, what do you mean? I mean, I don't think Israel should exist, especially the way it does now. What? She sighed. It started when I lived here. I was still religious, and I was studying in a seminary for a year. Once you see what life is like for other people who aren't Jewish, once you see East Jerusalem or Hebron, once you experience the checkpoints, once you make friends who live a wildly different life to you, you can't unsee it. I wasn't sure what to say, but it was interesting. She said, "You're becoming religious, connecting with the culture, and everyone around you loves Israel so much, right? But you have to see the whole picture. There are all these Jewish values like tikkun olam, fixing the world, and I want to live by them, you know? Maybe not in the way the community I was raised in wants me to be, but I still believe in these things. I care so much." By the way, this was a little bit of a pointed comment about the obsession that organizations like JVP have with tikkun olam. Can you imagine if they actually knew stuff about Judaism, how much better they would do? Anyway, sorry, I digress. Um, I thought about what my mom said to me the day before when I called her to tell her I was coming. I didn't expect her to be enthusiastic, but I was taken aback when she repeated the word Israel with the kind of disgust she usually saved for her patients' venereal diseases. She reminded me that living there had been a dream of my father's. He worked on a kibbutz there for a few months after he finished high school, she said. They had him pick melons, and he still had fungus under his fingernails when I knew him. I think it's where his idea for the tribe came from. Think of how much better off we all would have been if he'd never been there. Before I hung up, she mentioned her cousin Tara, who lived there and worked with an NGO in Khan Yunis. She was shaken by the conditions where people were living in. If you have time, I want you to reach out to her. Make sure you see other places, the ones that aren't on your itinerary, she said. Make sure you keep a genuinely open mind. This trip will give me a chance to see places I've always wanted to see, Alice said. Like what? I volunteered as a chef in Ida before, and I'm going to stay for an extra week to do that again. There are so many amazing people, thousands of women and kids whose lives have been affected this way for decades. Her voice broke. Aside from the important things, I want to see the art and culture. There's a new museum that just opened in Birzeit called the Palestinian Museum. I also want to go back to see the Darwish Museum in Ramallah. His poetry is so beautiful. I also want to finally see one of the Banksies, like the Waldorf Hotel in Bethlehem, you know, with the little girl holding a bunch of balloons. I don't know how I'll get to do all these things. It's complicated, but I really want to try. You're welcome to come with me if you want to ditch this stupid trip. You just let me know in advance so I can organize it. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do with the things that she was telling me. I fell asleep for the rest of the flight and dreamed that Jillian had come on the trip instead. Jillian insisted that I pack a few fun, non-religious outfits, including shorts and a bikini, and I hid them at the bottom of my bag, along with flip-flops and 2 tank tops. She also gave me $36 and asked me to give charity in her name at the kotel. Ask them to pray for my health. My full name is Miriam Bat Esther Aliza. If they give you a red string, bring it back for me. Of course, I said. She found out that she had a major doctor's appointment while I was away, and she promised to call me as soon as she knew anything. We checked into a beautiful hotel, the Waldorf Astoria, whose marble lobby reminded me of the Goldwater's house. For the rest of the trip, Chai explained, we'd be staying in less opulent settings, but Jerusalem was special, so they wanted us to stay in a special place. I was instantly taken with the city, the snaking streets filled with apartment buildings and bright, grassy parks, the chalky beige stone walls of the old city. It was jarring to walk through the Mamila Mall, to see the glowing store signs of the Gap and Aroma coming out of buildings made of cracking ancient stones. The mix of the ancient past and my possible future made me feel slightly feverish. Walking through the old city, I realized I'd never seen so many stray cats or so many children wandering around without their parents, aside from in my time in the tribe. A little boy with a light blue velvet kippah who couldn't have been more than 3 asked me to pick him up so he could press the buzzer outside of a stone-walled building. I looked at a couple of the girls in the group and they shrugged. Go ahead and help him. It's a normal thing here. He even gave me a hug when I put him down. I passed a father singing to a pair of twins in a stroller, Hamalach Hagoel Oti Mikorah. I felt like I was dreaming. My dad had sung it to me when I was sick, when I was little. I had a fever that wouldn't break. It was over 100, and my mom was angry that he wouldn't let me take Tylenol or Advil, but I loved the song. It was about an angel protecting children from harm. I remember him telling me about his grandfather singing it with a heavy Yiddish accent. Hamalach Hagoel Oti, my dad had pronounced it. He'd laughed, but I could hear the tears in his throat. Tears pricked the side of my eyes. I wondered, for the first time in years, if my dad would be happy if I called to tell him I was here. By the time we got to the kotel, everyone in the group was excited. I walked closer to the wall. Aside from our group, there was about 20 other women in the women's section. Some wore long dresses and they had their hair covered in scarves, and some wore jeans and t-shirts and took pictures with their phones. I hadn't expected to feel anything at all, but there was something primal that was stirred in me, a deep connection. I couldn't control my tears. My body shook. A woman standing next to me reached over and gave me a hug. I sobbed harder. She reached into her purse and handed me a tissue. Sido? She asked me. She gestured to a cart of prayer books a few feet away. They have more over there. I was embarrassed. I can't read Hebrew, I said. The woman looked me in the eye. It's okay. You don't read. You don't need to. God will read what's in your heart. I walked closer to the wall. I touched the stone and felt a vibration that echoed through my body. I felt the push of a woman's body in my back. Everyone wanted the chance to get close to it. I stepped back and sat down at a white plastic table a few feet behind. Chai explained that there was a long-standing tradition of writing notes, of expressing what we wanted or prayed for most from God, and sliding them into an available crack in the wall. I looked and saw that the cracks were overflowing with requests. Chaya handed out pens and tiny scraps of paper. I wasn't sure what to ask for. Please help me find the place where I belong. Please help me to reconcile all the different parts of myself, to feel happy and safe, to live a good life, to help people. Please let my friend Jillian have a full and complete recovery. Please let this be a world where everyone knows peace and safety, happiness and security. Please help me to do the right things, to know what they are and to do them. In the tiniest print I could manage. At the bottom I added, please help me be the kind of person who deserves the things I want. I squeezed it into an opening and then walked backwards as Chaya had instructed us to, so that my back was never to the wall. I found an older woman peddling red strings for charity a few steps later. Her eyes widened when she saw the dollars, and she repeated the blessing and gave me enough red strings to give the whole group. Chaya led everyone to the different meeting spots to meet the families who were hosting them for Shabbat. You'll like Ze'ev. He grew up in the States, totally not religious, but he's been Orthodox for 25 years now. I'm sure he'll tell you his story. Ze'ev startled me by coming up behind her. He had a salt and pepper beard and blue and white knitted kippah. Chana? It took me a minute to realize he was talking to me. Hi, he said. It's nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
That was great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
And
guys.
what happens in the next scene is, I was really shocked by that, but I won't give it away. I mean, shocked, not shocked. Okay, now y'all have to read the book to find out. Okay, I'm gonna introduce our next author and translator. Yishay Ishi Ron is an acclaimed Israeli author, a former combat soldier, an elite combat soldier, and survivor of severe PTSD. Writing has been an essential part of his healing journey, enabling him to transform deeply personal wounds into stories of trauma, resilience, and redemption. The Hebrew edition of Dog was long listed for the Sapir Prize, Israel's most prestigious literary award, and just recently the National Library of Israel recommended Dog as one of the most important contemporary works on post-trauma. Dog was translated into English by the renowned New York-based translator Yardenne Greenspan and has already drawn international attention. Celebrated filmmaker Eran Riflis, who made The Syrian Bride and Reading Lolita in Tehran, was so struck by the novel's emotional force that he committed to adapting it into a feature film. And Ron's previous works in Hebrew include The Holiday Apocalypse, which was nominated for the Geffen Award, and Vincent's Nose, a children's book that was adapted into an award-winning play. Across genres, his writing continues to explore the fragile boundary between suffering and survival, silence and voice, despair and imagination. And Yardenne Greenspan is a writer and Hebrew translator born in Tel Aviv. Her work has been featured in Tablet, Jewish Book Council, Literary Hub, Haaretz, Words Without Borders, and as a regular column in Plowshares. Her translations have been published by Restless Books, St. Martin's Press, Akashic, New Vessel Press, Amazon Crossing, and Farrar, Straus, and Giroux. Her translation of The Memory Monster by Yishay Ishi Ron was a 2020 New York Times notable book. and her translations have repeatedly been included in the World Literature Today's notable translation list. Greenspan has taught creative writing and translation workshops at Columbia University and at a VA hospital. She has an MFA from Columbia and lives in New York City. So I am going to now spotlight the two of you. You guys can take it away. And there we go. And take myself off. Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm very thrilled and excited to be here. Hi, Yardenne. Thank you for being here with me.
Of course.
Julie, thank you for your project and for having me as a guest, and Yardenne, and of course for Danila and Nina. Congratulations. It's very intriguing to hear you. So I'll talk about a little bit about myself and more about dog, which I don't know if you can see, but this is the cover, okay? So as Julie said, I was serving in an elite combat unit when I was serving in the IDF, and after I finished my my years at the army, I started my years as a civilian, as a stoned civilian. I was usually stoned from some drugs and alcohol, and I didn't understand that I'm actually trying to self-medicate me and trying to suppress the feelings and the manifestation of PTSD. Although I learned in the university, got my degree, have had my 3 kids with my wife, Ellie, all the time I was on the edge, and Ellie all the time told me, listen, Ishi, you are PTSD, you hit me up at night, you scream, you have nightmares. I all the time ignored it because this is what happens usually in PTSD, especially for guys, but not only. People are ashamed of what they feel. They not only they're ashamed, not always they can recognize what's happening to them, and it's the easy way to try to suppress those feelings with alcohol and drugs, and um, but then one day you find out that those things don't work anymore. And although you are drunk or stoned, you're still having a panic attack or anxiety attack. And that's what happened to me. And then I started medicated with psychiatric medication, still ignoring the idea that I'm a PTSD. Because I'm a man, like a monkey, I just come out of the trees. We are very strong, and we are ashamed if to admit any weakness. And what happened is that I continued living my life, writing my books, having my business, and suffering. But then during COVID, my team got together after many, many years, and I met the guy I shot him in an operation in the West Bank, and uh, we get together and we had stories, and everything was very, very extreme for me. And I came home and I just broke down totally, like a total mental breakdown. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I had anxieties and panic attacks for weeks and later for months, and no medication helped. And because I couldn't do much, I went back to a book I wrote a few years before, which is Dog, which the author probably recognize is PTSD. The author is me, but I didn't recognize it. He did, and he wrote Dog. And then I said, okay, for the first time I understood that I'm PTSD. I couldn't ignore it anymore. So I started taking care of myself and doing the sue against the Ministry of Defense and getting my handicapped. And during this, I started working on dog. Dog is telling is a story about Geller, which is a protagonist uh, who is an officer in Golani, in a special unit in Golani, serving in pillars of defense in Gaza. And he came home, and suddenly his world collapsing. He's getting a panic attack, and it sounds very familiar to me. Uh, so Dog is not a true story, but it's a true story emotionally. Okay, emotionally, it was very easy for me to write Dog because I was feeling the same way. And Geller is trying to suppress his feeling by at first smoking drugs, and later, when it didn't help, he is doing heroin, which takes him in like a snowball down the slope, and he finds himself in a dump shooting heroin, homeless, with nothing in his life, losing everything, and he's keeping a spoon, a silver spoon, which he tries dramatically not to use it for drugs and not to do anything with it except from trying to bend it with his mind. Because like Uri Geller, and that's why everyone is calling him Geller, because this is what he's doing. He has some kind of a practice or a ritual every time that he's stoned from heroin. He sits in his sofa in the dump, and he's trying to bend the spoon, because this is the only way he thinks he can get his way out of his very bad situation. He thinks that if he will be able to do this magic, these supernatural powers that Uri Geller, if you remember, was the first mentalist that when I was a kid I admired, and everyone did. We thought it's a real powers. This is the way he claimed he had, and that's why I chose this symbol, because when you are PTSD, and by the way, not only PTSD, so many mental illnesses that we cannot see. We are not, our body is intact. We are not broken. We are not missing a limb or having a cancer, or so no one sees our illnesses. No one sees the way we are broken. Um, but PTSD is very severe. So the only way that my protagonist Geller, the only way he sees that it can take him out of his problem, to find a solution, is if he can bend the spoon. And this is, I think, my book is something which it's not only that I'm very proud of, being an author, and now trying to be an international author, and it's really uh, it's an amazing journey to join author events, the JBC, and events with Yardenne, which is amazing, a translator, an amazing friend. Uh, I think that a dog is also shading a light on something which is so important in our society, in modern life, everywhere, and not only in modern life. It was always like it, but now it's a little bit more common to speak about, and to show people that mental illness and PTSD are severe injuries, and not only for soldier and veterans like described in my book, but also for sex assaults, and for car accident, and people losing their children. We are all, if you look around you, you see that everyone carries this PTSD on their back. Some of them are more sensitive, and some of them are less, but all of us suffer from it. And so many of us suffer severe PTSD in some parts of their life. And I think that in dog, of course, I want you as readers, I'm talking to the audience now, but everyone, to read a book like Dog and feel that they are reading a good literature and good translation, if I'm talking about English. But also, I want you to think about, as I think Danila said something about Tikkun Olam, Tikkun Olam, which is this aspect in Judaism that says that if everyone does a little good thing, a smile here, a talk there, a donation, really small thing, the world will become a better place for all of us. So in Dog, I want my reader to be, of course, connected to the protagonist Geller and to the very important protagonist Dog, which I don't think I have time to speak about. But I also want them to finish the book with a feeling in themselves that the people they meet in the street, in the spotlights, the people that shoot heroines or the girls that sell their bodies as prostitution, they don't choose this weak place in our society. So those weak links in our society, which so many people gets there, and some of them before were regular people, and some of them grew in wreckage home and they didn't choose those places. And I want people to look at those people and see human beings and not drug addicts or prostitutes or to see the people that are weak. And I will give Yardenne to speak about her part. I can just say that I'm so fortunate, I feel so big fortune to have Yardenne as my translator of not only Dog, but of my next novel, which Yardenne already finished translate, and it will come out during 2026, which is called The Girl Who Rode the White Lion. And Yardenne is amazing, and I love you, and they speak for yourself. I don't want to flatter you too much here.
Okay, thank you, Ishi. I love you too. I am very, very privileged to have translated this book and your next one. I just wanted to speak very briefly. Last Friday morning, I was invited to an event focusing on this small organization called Israel Heart to Heart, which is all about supporting veterans with PTSD. And one of the veterans who was at the event described a situation where he was in the middle of Tel Aviv, but his brain took him to Lebanon, where he fought. And he lost connection with reality. He was convinced that he was in a war zone. And that was kind of an amazing thing to hear, because there's a scene that I'm going to read from Dog, which is very similar. And it got me thinking about what this organization does, which is essentially bring together people who make these veterans feel seen and heard and listened to and cared for. And that seems like a small thing, but it's a very central aspect of coping with PTSD or any emotional trauma, really. And for me, getting to translate this book post October 7th it provided the same service for me. Like all of us, I was in a pretty dark place. And I think being able to engage with this book, to have a dialogue with it through my translation work, was a part of how I healed. And I'm also thinking, Julie, about what you said in the beginning of this session about how we're all breathing a little bit easier, and it's true. But at the same time, this is also where the real work starts, both in Israel and in Gaza, the work of rebuilding and healing and trying to find some kind of normalcy. And I think this normalcy and this healing has to come from a place of honesty, which is another thing I really respect about this book. It's a very unflinching look at the reality, not just of PTSD, but also of what it means to live in a war zone. And so I'm going to read a few pages that both show a depiction of what trauma can look like when it pops up on you in an unexpected moment, but also of the power of connection to heal. The dog in the scene, as you'll see, it starts with the stray dog that Geller finds and saves. But then throughout the scene, you'll also hear references to dog, meaning the dog that he remembers being shot in Gaza, which became kind of a big milestone in the memories that he has of his own service and his own trauma. Okay. The dog is injured, and Geller just realized this, and this is where we're at in this moment. He's going to die, I cry, hearing myself talking, seeing the hands, but they aren't mine. This isn't my body. There's a pressure in my chest. My heart is racing, my blood shooting through me, threatening to break through valves, veins, and arteries. I pick up Dog. It's hard to breathe, and my body is trembling. Dog isn't heavy, but he's positioned in a terrible dying angle in my arms. I stumble over the debris all around me. He can't die, I mumble, hearing my words echoing through my skull, but they aren't mine. I hear yelling, and I know it's Crutchy Tzvi, his friend, another drug addict. But inside my head, I hear the cries of wounded soldiers calling out to a medic. They have two parents who birthed them and came to their cribs in the middle of the night where they cried and fed them and played with them and read them bedtime stories and took them to the amusement park and dropped them off on the first day of first grade. They've got brothers and sisters, a grandma and grandpa, friends. Outside, dawn breaks over the city, a wet and miserable dawn welded together with heavy rain clouds. I remember the vet, Buglashov Street. I hear the words, trying to hold onto torn seams that barely hold my personality together. Don't fall apart, not now. But pieces of me fall to the ground and vanish between the pavement like see-through bits of skin. Fear closes in as if I'd never shot up heroin in the first place. I put my ear to Dog's fur but can't hear a heartbeat. The sound of the exploding shells is deafening. They blow up everywhere, whistling through the air and paralyzing my body, and I know somebody's about to die. When everything explodes, the Gazans die, and the Hamas terrorists and my soldiers and Dog, they all die. This isn't Gaza, it's Tel Aviv, I shout. The words come out desperate, like the clucking of a chicken with a knife to her throat. Even though it's morning, everything is war, gray and dark, and the buildings look like Gaza's buildings, and the air stinks of fear like Gaza. Those aren't shells, it's all in my head, all in my broken head. I repeat the words like a mantra, as if they can defeat the nightmare. I feel the drool dripping from the corners of my mouth. In war, fluids are no good. They mean something's damaged, torn, leaking. My skull is pounding. I'm not in Gaza, I'm in Tel Aviv, and there are no shells here, only a dying dog, and no one is helping, no one comes. I weep, my tears staining the road, the buildings around me as threatening as terrorist cells, full of tunnel shafts. At any moment, a terrorist can pop out wearing black, carrying a Kalashnikov, shooting a dog and me. I run, my breathing heavy and wheezing, my body sweating. The wind is cold. I'm about to die. I'm going to have a heart attack if a terrorist doesn't shoot me first. I fight not to let myself faint. I've got to save Yoram. How I loved that kid. My signal operator is strong. He never lags behind. Now Dog feels as heavy as a sack of rocks, and I limp underneath it, one step at a time, sweating my fears out of my skin. But they keep emanating, straight from the fear and anxiety factory, cracking open inside my stomach. I step in a puddle and realize I'm shoeless and my socks are all wet, but that doesn't matter now. Not at war, not in Gaza. People are staring at me, wanting to hurt me. I don't know where to escape to. I'm in Tel Aviv. I know I'm not at war. I know this is Tel Aviv, not Gaza. I'm in Tel Aviv, the city of Tel Aviv. I'm in Tel Aviv, I scream at the top of my lungs, needing to hear the words in order to believe them. But everything is so different, and Dog doesn't feel like Dog, but like Yoram's body. But Yoram is dead. I know he's dead. He was covering for us as he rescued the bodies from the APC. And then that motherfucking sniper shot him in the head, and a warm stream of blood emerged between broken bones, and little bits of Yoram's brain began to leak out through the cracks like red shakshuka with specks of egg white. And he fell right on top of me, and I picked him up, and his eyes looked at mine, and in spite of the darkness, I could see what one can only see in the wide open eyes of someone who has taken a bullet to the head, a great, black, endless astonishment. So I picked him up, and the radio got tangled between my legs, and the bullets started whistling, and I carried Yoram's body like a bucket with a hole in it through which life was draining out. I carried him just like I'm carrying Dog now, and the whole time I thought about his mother, and how she had no idea that her life was over. She was probably still sleeping, enjoying the last good night she'd ever have. In a few hours, the casualty notification officers would show up, and she'd scream, and Yoram's father would say nothing and would never speak again, because all of his words were connected to his eldest son's heartbeat. And Yoram's brothers and sisters would lament their brother who died in Gaza, but no one would really pay much attention to their pain. I thought about all these things as I ran with Yoram's body, not even realizing I'd been shot too. Adrenaline filled my body, and I was crazed like a rabid dog. I kept running with what used to be Yoram, but had since become a lifeless lump of flesh, and the bullets kept whistling by my head. I have no idea where the medic or the vet is. They need to take care of Yoram. I run through the bombed neighborhood, and I don't want to die, and tears are running down my eyes, and I fall to my knees in the middle of the road, still holding onto Dog, and I want to raise my hands and surrender, but Dog is in my arms. And all around me is utter chaos and sirens, or maybe it's just cars honking and people running, and I'm crying, and Yoram and Dog are crying too. And behind me, a car brakes and honks, and I can't get up. Maybe because of the bullet in my thigh, or maybe I've got a big hole in my head from that fucking sniper who shot Yoram, and the army is going to make the entire neighborhood shake, and a ton of people will die just so we can catch that sniper. Little kids and grandmas and mothers and fathers, and even the boy we later found lying, legless, wearing a shirt that read, Falafel King of Jerusalem. Whole families will die, and so will Dog, whom Yuval shot because he was a damn Hamas dog, a beautiful German shepherd who didn't wear a green flag with white Arabic writing and didn't carry explosives. The dog didn't even have a beard. Maybe he was hungry or thirsty. He came over, and Yuval pulled out his Glock, cocked it against his belt with one hand, and blew the dog's brains out. Then he said it was a damn Hamas dog, and I didn't do anything because it's war, so dogs die too. And it wasn't a child or a woman or an old lady, just a poor little German shepherd, an unkempt dog. And I saw the horror in his eyes as his soul escaped through the hole in his head. People come over from every direction. They yell and talk and touch me, but I can't get up. I can't move. I hold Yoram as he dies, hold on to him as tightly as I can so nobody abducts his body. Whatever happens, just no abduction. Even if it means blowing yourself up with a grenade, don't let them abduct the body. Then an ambulance with flashing lights comes to take Yoram, but I hold him tight, wrapping both arms around him. Everything about me confused, and I'm about to die. I didn't say goodbye to my mother or Daphne or Amir, and my father is lying in the hospital, attached to tubes, trapped inside his head. My father, who's the only reason I even joined the commando. And they'll be sad when they hear about it. They'll bury me next to my friends from the battalion, next to Yoram, next to Dog. All of a sudden, from within the inferno, pale arms reach out and take Dog, and these arms are connected to broad shoulders and a black t-shirt, covering a large chest with a golden necklace with the word Doris spelled on it. I look up and see that the whole thing is connected to a fat woman with a wide face, a small red nose, a million freckles, and ginger hair. And she smiles and tells me she'll take care of Dog and holds him to her chest. Those words are enough to push the fear away, and all the military memories fell away like dried mud. Yoram vanishes in the image of Dog. Gaza is gone from Tel Aviv. A long line of cars honk behind me. I'm on my knees in the middle of the road, as if begging for my life, as if praying to God. And all around me, people are talking and consulting and telling people what happened and how it happened. And I'm busy picking up the pieces of my personality from the asphalt and putting them back together again, as careful as a tightrope walker. And I let the paramedics put me on a stretcher and slip me into the ambulance. I close my eyes and dream of shooting up. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad you read that section because I was thinking when I was talking about Doris, what a beautiful character she is. And as I'm bringing everybody up, you guys can put your questions in the chat as I bring everybody back on. But I felt like the reader can really learn a lot from Doris because she's so non-judgmental and so welcoming to Geller, and is really also a big part of his healing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
because he's also because she is also PTSD,
Hmm.
and she is a human. She has a PTSD. She's also understand that those people she meets, like Geller, the one that shoots heroin, and the beggars are human being with some kind of trauma, and that's why she accepts Geller as he is. And later, she's even so surprised that he, so handsome and was an officer in Golani, but she accepted him before she noticed everything. She just accepted him as a human being that needs help at the same moment. Yeah, Doris is an amazing figure. I love her. Thank you,
Okay, so
Yarden.
Thank you.
thank you. So I see actually Nina has put a question in here for Yishay and Yardenne is how did you meet as and start working as collaborators?
For us, for
Yeah.
me and Yarden,
Yeah.
I was looking for when a dog became some kind of a cult book in Israel for PTSD, and many people, it was a bestseller, and also many people came to my house to speak with me and to get a signature on the book, but to tell the story of their PTSD. And I was feeling deep inside me something that urged me to do more with this book. Okay, not only a book in Israel as a lifespan everywhere actually, but I said dog must maybe be heard in other places or read in other places. So I looked up for, and no one accepted the Israeli authors during the war and when everything started to collapse. And I found it. I just checked who's the best translators from Hebrew to English, and then was one of the best five in the world. And she was, yeah, then you are
Yeah,
one of the best in the world. And
for sure.
when she had
Oh,
time, she told me to wait a few months, and I said, sure, of course. And then we had this chemistry between us, which worked amazing. And then um, got the perspective, which she got my voice, but she put it in our magical way of translating Hebrew books to English. And from that moment, when I read what Yarden was doing, I understood that I at least want her in my journey. And I'm so glad that she agreed, that we speak together and do events together and to accompany dog and myself. It's a great honor and a great friendship also. So basically, this is my side of the story.
hey, there's a lot of questions for the two of you in the chat. I'm going to ask a question to all of our authors before we get to more, which is something based on what Nina said. You talked about writing as like metabolizing your life or something like that. Uh, and I think that's a great metaphor for writing in general for anyone who likes the practice of writing, uh, whether you're doing memoir or fiction or poetry. So I thought maybe each of you could touch on that. I mean, how do you find that your writing is metabolizing or pick another verb if you want your life? Maybe yeah.
Processing, perhaps.
Yeah.
Processing experience.
Yeah. Who wants to start with that? Danila, pick on you.
That's funny. I don't thanks, it's a great question. And I also thought the line was very interesting about metabolizing your life. I don't write autobiographically at all. Often I write to understand other people's perspectives and to understand things that, especially things that confound me, or things where I think like I really want to understand the reason people do things, or I really want to understand their motivation, or I really want to come to a place of feeling deeper empathy because I just don't understand this. It's like there's often like a feeling of um I want to understand this more deeply. I want to know what it feels like to be this person and to have this experience. Um and so a lot of what I write is exploration in that way. So it helps me to process why I feel strongly about something, or why I have a block to connecting with or understanding something, or why it's not a natural thing to come um so yeah, but for me it's not like usually to process my own experiences, although sometimes there's a little bit of like my taste, or a little bit of something I love, or a little bit of like taste in music or taste in books, or like there can be a little bit, but I don't generally write from that place of my life is very, very uninteresting. Like it's not, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about other things, and I try to understand them through writing for sure.
Mm.
I think that I'm the same way, by the way. Like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, my life's
that's
pretty
good.
boring. But
No, no, I don't
I,
think that
I
at all.
write to like, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
uh, I don't even realize what I'm doing when I'm doing it. I write something and then afterwards I realize, oh, I wrote that so I could understand what I think about this issue or
yeah,
how I
yeah, yeah,
feel about this
exactly,
issue. It's like
exactly.
revelatory. Even after the book comes out, sometimes
Yeah,
Mhm.
you're asked a question and you have to think about, oh, why did I do it that way?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
helps you
yeah,
understand.
for sure.
And I actually think if I can just interject that what Danny said is just as much part of like m- let's use metabolizing or processing, right? Because even though you may think you don't have an interesting life, the fact that this stuff goes on in your head,
Mhm.
right, and it drives you toward your writing is actually, I think, part of demonstrates how much it's part of a process for you to reach understanding, right? So it can go both ways, if you write about your own life, or why do you write the stories you write with the topics that fascinate you or interest you? So,
Sorry? Oh, sorry, dude.
I want to ask a question now to Yardenne. 'Cause I guess Isha, your whole talk was we understood we understand the how Dog is writing about your life and metabolizing your life, but um, you have a question about can you speak about the challenges of translating Dog for Yardenne?
Um, if I'm completely honest, it was not a huge challenge because was a really like when I get a book that's really well written
Mm.
and there's not it just flows, then the work is pretty easy. Um, a few specific things about this book to me, I mean, there were like small lingual things. For example, one of the junkies in the book, in the English version, we called him the Georgian. In Hebrew, originally he was Hakavkazi, meaning a
Mm.
person from the Caucasus, but that translates as the Caucasian, and it's just really confusing. So, there's always going to be stuff like that. I think the biggest challenge, though, was just getting into the head of someone whose perception of reality is so fraught, both in terms of how he loses touch with it and in terms of how he perceives it when he is embodying it. Um, it's a very aggressive way to exist. And that was something I really wanted to keep throughout the book. And of course, I was talking about honesty before, but honesty is also really, really scary. To be living in this world where I hear people condemning Israel for
Yeah,
things that don't seem true or fair, or for things that are true but are true for other countries as well.
right.
The parts in this book that talk about the truly ugly reality of war, I'm all for it, but it is a little bit scary sometimes, as a Jew in the diaspora to
Yeah. Yeah.
be open about those things. But I think it's also crucial.
Vivian has a question for Shai. Do you do special readings or talks with war veterans, especially from this war, or for people who work with them?
Um, when Dog came out in Israel, so as I said, many people felt very connected to what they read, and they came and really opened their heart, and I had a lot of soldiers, veterans, and some parents that recognized the PTSD in their children, and that couldn't that the children didn't yet admit that they suffering from PTSD, and the parents came to me for advice. And everyone came as to buy a book or to sign a book, but actually they came to have a coffee and spoke from their heart. And it was amazing for me because, I suddenly spoke with so many people, not only that came from my position of PTSD, but, some that it was really amazing, like people that were not even combat soldiers, but were taking photos, like worked in the IDF as a reporter or as someone in the battlefield that just shooting the photos, and they had PTSD, even severe PTSD. And I had a commando officer which was in the Shayetet in the Marmara operation, and he surprised me so much that he actually said that he, when he spoke about his PTSD was from childhood. He was molested when he was a child and not from the army. And so today it's not that I speak only to veterans. I mostly try to participate in podcasts or event which would be shared by many people. The truth is that speaking about those things are not very easy for me as well. When Yardenne read what she read, I had almost tears in my eyes, and I felt my skin, my body was very tense, and it's something which it's not very easy for me. So I can tell you honestly that part of me loves dogs so much and wants people to to read it, and I want it to be a cult book also in other countries. And part of me wants to move to the girl who wrote The White Lion and put this PTSD a little bit on the side, because remember it and handle it and speaking about it is not something very easy, although I know that it is so important, okay? Especially after the October 7th, what we have in Israel is, I think, catastrophe. I mean, more than 70 soldiers already took their own life since the war began, and I think it's only a fracture of what we are handling. I mean, civilians got tens of thousands of civilians are injured by PTSD, and it's gonna be horrible. Like Yardenne said, the process is only now beginning, and this is what I'm telling people who want to read Dog, that it's not a war novel. It's a novel of what happened when the war is over, and which is sometimes horrific, no more, no less than the war itself.
Sorry, those are my dogs barking in the background.
Wait, didn't hear that.
So
Okay, that's good. I just want to say how much, like, I was getting emotional listening to that reading. It was amazing. And the very brave and awesome that you shared that with us.
thank
Like,
you.
it's tremendous respect for both of you and admiration for both of you. Well, all of you. But like, that was
I
really,
think that
really
those kind of for me those kind of events are so important because tomorrow, hopefully, if everything is fine, I will speak with Eileen Molan, the Australian reporter which interviewed Bibi 2 days ago. She has like
oh, right.
a
Okay.
250,000 followers, and I
Right.
think that is, and I'm more excited for this conversation in our podcast because I think this is the time to put the light on this issue, especially now that hopefully the war is over, and hopefully we will return the three last hostages. I think that people must understand that PTSD with veterans, it's like colon cancer. People don't want to admit they have it, don't want to test. They are very, very ashamed, and sometimes they prefer to just kill themselves than to treat themselves. So it is very, very important issue, and I think um, I feel that as much as it's hard for me, it is very, very important to, to have this voice, especially now, heard.
That actually brings me to I want to start wrapping this up because we've gone longer than usual. And I know that there's been some questions about whether the book is available in paperback and discussion questions. So if you guys could answer those questions in the chat, that would be great if you haven't already. And if you've been coming to Literary Modiin for the last 2 years, you know that at the end of each event, I've been saying the prayer for the captives, and now we have a new tefillah that we say in my Beit Knesset. So it's much shorter. I'm gonna just share that here, and I'm gonna read it briefly. You'll excuse my mispronunciations in the Hebrew. Ava rachamim shochin meromim hu yifkod berachamim et achenu shenhergu al kiddush Hashem ha'am v'ha'aretz yizkerem Elohim l'tova im shar tzadikei olam v'yivi'em mehira lekever Yisrael kmo shene'amar ve'el amo tvienu ve'enuchu b'shalom al mishkavotehem nomar amen. And we hope that all three of the remaining hostages are returned immediately. And hopefully by the next Literary Modiin, I won't even have to say that. So I just want to skip over to here to tell you to save the dates. For those of you in Israel, our December event is going to be in person, but for everyone who is not in Israel, it's also on Zoom. So December 28th, we're going to have Judy Levinson, Alana Krishan, and Carolyn Goldberg-Igra. Sunday, December 28th in Modiin and on Zoom. And our next Zoom event, our only Zoom event is in January. Just finalized that with Lihi Lapid, Merav Fima, and Mikael Yosel. So save those dates. Actually, I'll be sending out the...
Representing the Canadians with that one.
What?
Representing the Canadians.
Representing the Canadians, yes.
Yeah.
And Merav
but those are
zooming
seriously
in from
both
Australia
amazing. Well.
at 5 a.m. So everyone should tune in to hear her. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank all of our authors, Yishay Ishi Ron and Yardenne Greenspan and Nina Lichtenstein and Danila Botha. Thank you all so much for this fascinating event and for your words and your books. And that's it.
Before we go, can I be choosy and take a picture of the group? Is that okay, guys?
Sure.
And later send it to us as well.
Of course. Sorry, I'm so excited to get to read with all of you and to get to do this with all of you guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, you should go out and get all of their books. Really wonderful work. And no, I don't share the author's emails, Ellen, but if you have a specific, but usually they have contact information on their website. Thank you. What?
Julie, just a quick question, Yishay and Yardenne. When did the book come out in Israel? Dog.
In Israel, it came out beginning of 2023, before October 7th. And then it was, almost, it was like amazing that it happened a few months before. And that's why, by the way, Ron Ricklitz, which is doing the movie now, and he told me when he connected with me, he said, he connected me after October 7th. He said, everybody are now doing TV series and movies about October 7th. Everybody, all the directors, all the TV channels, that's what you hear. And he said, I want dog because it's not specific about October 7th. It's about PTSD and about resilience and about many issues that touches October 7th, but it's not about the case. The case is too raw to make movies, about it. It's not over yet. Let it lay down for a few years. Maybe we can heal a little bit.
Yeah.
And
I don't know who can write. I mean, there are a few people who are writing fiction already about it, about October 7th. I'm amazed because I certainly can't.
I have a couple
Yeah.
stories. I have a
Yeah.
couple stories about it in my new collection, and a couple have been in journals already, which was amazing.
Oh, right. You said you told me.
I mean, it's different. A short story is very short compared to writing a whole novel or a whole an in-depth work. But it was actually really hard to be. I have speaking to family and friends all the time, like many times a day. It's been actually hard to be so far away.
Yeah.
It's very hard to be there, but it's also very hard to be so far away.
and last one word, and we are finishing from my side at least. Anyone is really welcome to follow me and Yardenne
Yeah, me
on
too.
our
Me too.
socials,
Yeah.
and to contact me directly,
Same.
also
Yeah,
in
yeah.
email or Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
answering, and I'm trying to do my best to answer anyone. So feel free. And
Well,
thank you,
that's so
Julie.
kind. That's so kind. I should add
Thank you.
also, I have my Instagram private because I have three kids, and it just took one person when my oldest who's 10 now was like one or two was like, what a beautiful little boy, and it was like some man that I'd never met, and I was like, that's creepy. But I actually mainly use my socials for work, so please feel free to add me. Please feel free to follow me. The only reason is that I occasionally post pictures of my kids, but please feel free.
Yeah.
Please feel free to email me too.
Okay. Do you want me to
It
give
was
you an
pleasure.
email
Yeah, you can,
that
sure.
people are registered?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
mine, I can't speak for anybody else, but yeah, of course.
Nina, do you want
No
email?
problem.
No problem. Okay. Everyone's okay with email?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, sorry, I'll
All
speak
right.
for
If you're not, let me know after. Okay. All right.
Julie,
Thank
since
you so much.
we're finishing up, and I'll just say that when people reach out, which I follow in Dani and Yardenne and Yishai's footsteps, I also teach embodied writing, so that might be something that someone is interested in exploring, and then that's another reason to reach out.
Yeah. I love the prompts at the end of the book.
All right.
It's not great. I'm excited to
Thank
see.
you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Julie,
you.
thank
you.
Thank you
you.
guys so
Okay.
much.
Bye, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.